Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The topic that I chose for purposes of the assignment is the little known but very important Simpkins versus Cohen court case. This case intrigued me because I happened to be reading a Los Angeles Times article regarding inequity in the COVID 19 vaccine distribution in African American and Latino communities in California, and I was intrigued to see if there's any parallels that could be drawn from this case. Now, the backdrop of this case is the 1960s, where segregation in America was commonplace, and it was very clear that the quality of services and facilities offered to white and non white patients had a sharp contrast. Now, while dining facilities and other public spaces are analyzed in civil rights historiography, I felt that hospitals and medical care is often overlooked to the detriment of the overall history on civil rights in America. Now, this is an area of study that students of the civil rights era and history in general should take another look in. For information purposes, mixed race hospitals had black and white patients in different areas, never together at once. Fully integrated hospitals, of which there are only a few, allowed black patients to go to any available rack or bed, sometimes in a shared room. Now, during this time, hospitals discriminated against African American doctors and patients alike. Hospitals were reluctant to hire black doctors and even less willing and outright denying black patients from being admitted. In North Carolina of the 1960s, there were only 9 hospitals where black patients could go. Oftentimes, they would be overcrowded, and sometimes the wait time for admittance would be stretched out too far into the future, and potentially the patient could die. In addition, inadequate funding meant there would be chronic shortages of supplies compared to their white-run counterparts. Now, the leaders of this effort to integrate the hospitals was Dr. Blunt and Dr. Barnes, sought a clever way to present their case by couching their argument in terms of funding. Now, Moses Cone Memorial and Wesley Long Community Hospital, both of which were in Greensboro, North Carolina, received state and federal funding as stipulated by the 1946 Hill-Burton Hospital Survey and Construction Act. This allowed $75 million per year for 5 years for grants to states for building hospitals. There's also an allotment of $3 million per year for state surveys of hospital facilities. That grant money would be based on population distribution and existing hospital beds. The main effort was to provide federal dollars but allow for state level control. Now, Dr. Blunt and Dr. Barnes argued that since hospitals took federal money, they should not discriminate. The discrimination was a blatant violation of the 5th and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. The NAACP intervened, and their appointed attorney, Conrad Pearson, filed such a petition. On December 5, 1962, a decision was rendered at the district court favoring the hospitals. The majority argument was, as private facilities, the hospitals were within their right to discriminate. Southern senators, such as Lister Hill, a Democrat from Alabama, advocated for states' rights and local level control, and the right of state legislators and local hospital authorities to set policy. On March 9, 1967, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals overturned that ruling, and therefore, hospitals were required to stop segregation. The historic event received its landmark in a celebration attended by the surviving children of Dr. Blunt and Dr. Barnes to commemorate their efforts at desegregation in the medical field. While this celebration may have been small in comparison to other civil rights figures, it is nevertheless an important contribution to public history and historical memory because it highlights how a small fight in the campaign for equal rights and treatment in the medical field would have greater consequences on the nation. In the years following the verdict, other doctors and more prominent members of the community seeking inspiration in their campaign for equality in medicine would look to the ruling of this case. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this presentation is slightly shorter. I do welcome your feedback. I think looking at the medical field is very important in the civil rights movement. I'm just trying to make a case for it for a deeper analysis. Let me know your thoughts and feedback. Thank you.